Right.
Okay, carry on. Szara, carry on. Daniel, carry on.
It's always when someone asks us, carry on talking, you don't know what to say, do you? Yeah. You're kind
All
of
right.
like on the spot, but yeah. Okay, cool. And so we'll just go through. I'll both myself and Margaret will ask you questions, and you can tell us a little bit more about your sort of history and story, and yeah,
absolutely.
How you came to do what you did.
Yeah, I wasn't going to focus too much on that. I will obviously introduce myself and mention that. But no, there wasn't any specific reason. It's just that I wanted to sort of make sure that we really sort of speak very positive about, you know, making. Yeah, I've got a few things in my head, but I wasn't going to tell my full story. I was just going to touch on how Shoosh No More come about, if that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I think yeah, if we it's good to get an idea of where you come from as well, and the anecdotes that you have. It's people always relate more to stories, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got loads of different
theory, yeah.
It's just that obviously I'm very conscious that we're speaking to men about men, and of course my story with regards to, you know, my story, the male side of it is very negative, so I want to make sure that you know, I try and sort of word it and go down the way that it clearly shows that I'm supportive of the men too, but also having that recognition that we need to, if it's okay, I sort of want to cover that we make sure people understand that you know, different ways. I mean, I'm going to go just by your conversation and what you ask me, and whatever I bring up. But I certainly will cover why I Shoosh No More, definitely. May I just say that one of my biggest panics is my dog. And I know that we're sort of doing this from home so people understand, but if there is any reason that you see me just get up and jump, I will actually go and complete. It won't be any better, but I'm going to completely lock her out. So,
well, to be honest, you just share it with us. Just share.
I'll just tell you. Yeah, shall I be human?
We don't mind, you know. It's like
be human.
I remember wasn't there this interview or this BBC broadcaster was doing something during COVID, and his son came in and he started screaming at his. I think it was that. I can't remember exactly, but
I remember a few of those.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Daniel, is my dog is quite a really good, big, huge part of you know, the fact that I'm here mainly on my own. You know, she's a really big part of my life, and yeah, I guess if she does start to play me up, because all I'd need, one of the biggest things is that two of mine are due to visit, and I forbid them to come until 2 o'clock. But knowing my luck, they'll turn up, and then she'll go mad, and I'll be, oh.
It's okay, don't worry, it's cool, it's fine. Yeah, we're not, you know, this isn't ITV or BBC. We're like, okay, it's cool. We're just nice and relaxed. So
yeah, cool.
And it's all part of the divine plan.
Yeah, it's just that remembering, though, isn't it, that what we put out there is out there. So although I'm trying not to be nervous, I'm also sort of got to be very conscious that I just make sure that I you know, behave.
Okay, guys, are you ready? I'm just going to click live now. All right. We're going live. Just connecting. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to everyone out there, to our viewer around the world. Welcome to the Father Talk Show. Wherever you are, is it good morning to you? Good afternoon, but you are all welcome. And also I want to say thank you to all our Facebook community who has been supporting us, being there for us. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you. My question to you now out there is, single fathers, men, how have you been today? How's your week been? I hope you have an amazing time. Now, today's topic is how do we navigate relationship conversation with children, with our exes? How do we navigate that relationship? My question to you, are you just newly divorced and you're going through a battlefield with, having custody with your children? Have you just separated from your partner and you're going through a tug of war in terms of how you navigate the conversation so that your children do not get caught up in between? So today's topic, I'm super excited. I got my co-host, Daniel, is going to come soon. And I got an amazing guest speaker. As you can see, I'm so thrilled about this guest speaker. And she's going to talk to us about how do we navigate, all right? How do we navigate the relationship with children and our exes, and how we can share that custody, how we can respect one another, and how we spot, wait for it, most time we talk about red flags. Yeah, the women. The men have red flags too. So how could the men notify, be able to identify the red flags? And we're going to be talking about, she's going to be talking about, our guest host, about identifying if you are in a relationship, there is power struggle. Who's in control? So there's going to be some exciting topics coming up. So I'm really, really excited. But to all the single fathers there, you know what I'm going to say, right? And the men out there, we salute you and we welcome you to this program. You're an amazing, awesome fathers and doing an amazing job. Now, I want to introduce my co-host, Daniel. Come on, do the dance for you.
Yeah, Margaret, I love these introductions. I really do, and there's so much passion and love in you. For everyone, really, not just single fathers, for everyone. And this is part of the reason we're here, and we're here to make a difference. Perhaps our words can impact people and create more love in the world, and a love towards our exes, more greater love towards our children as well, and everyone benefits because of it. And ultimately, we're going to be talking about how we can navigate this. I've navigated it myself as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah, with my ex, with my daughter as well. So, but we're going to hear from an expert today. So, Szara, it's Szara Coote, yes?
Yes. Hello, Daniel. Hello, Margaret.
Yeah, so Szara, you're going to tell us all about how we navigate these relationships. And sometimes they can be quite turbulent, can't they? Especially when initially the separation happens and everything that was perhaps previously unsaid in a relationship comes to a surface, and all of these emotions come, the emotion of separation, all of that begins to appear, and we want to find out more about it. So do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about,
Yeah, absolutely, if I may I just say, I appreciate we're live. I come from a very, very sleepy little hamlet, and I have not had anybody outside or anywhere. And now I've got next door neighbours mowing their grass. I've got dogs barking. So may I apologise, okay, if you can't hear me very well, but I'll certainly hope that they'll hurry up. So yes, I'm Szara Coote, as Daniel said, and I back in 2014. Keeping secrets and keeping silent ended for me. I had been silenced as a child. I had been bullied and silenced throughout, my schooling, unfortunately. And then I am a survivor myself of over 30 years of domestic abuse, where others had power and control over me. And I'm really proud and to share that I am a certified specialist domestic abuse and trauma-informed practitioner. I thank you, Margaret. Yes, I've done some amazing things, and Margaret's been a great supporter and a believer in me. And I'm really, really grateful to be here today, because we need to have these conversations We need
Right.
to have conversations. And Daniel, you already mentioned with regards to relationships, I think when we're in relationships, we don't have enough conversations around raw truths. That's a word I use often. We need to have some conversations around the real raw truths, and certainly afterwards we need to continue to talk. So yes, tell me if you want me to keep going, or do you want to ask me another question?
Oh, that's fine. Thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you. It's absolutely brilliant, because because I know quite a bit of your journey, and as well as my journey, and you've been amazing. And first of all, guys out there that's listening to us, I want to say thank you so much to Szara. You've been such a great support. When we started this show, guy out there, the very first day, you know, when you start a show, you're really nervous and everything. And I was just sharing this with Daniel to say, this lady took time out and sent me a text. Well done on your first show.
Brilliant.
And I would be watching. And we need people like Szara around us to support us when you're going through a journey. So today I'm definitely super excited as we open the conversation. The conversation and the journey today is, how do we, navigating through a relationship with the children, with the exes, because we all been in the relationships, let's face it, and we have gone through struggles, and children are involved, and most time children really they get caught in the middle and they get hurt and everything, and they don't know which side to go to, mom or dad and everything. But today we're going to see, how do we navigate in that relationship? So Szara, our guest speaker, how do we navigate through that relationship? If you're a single father or man coming out of a relationship.
Okay, so I wanted to touch on a few things today, if I may, and it will all make sense. So if you start to hear words that you maybe feel uncomfortable about, bear with me. It's a few things. One of the things is I wanted to firstly talk about men. Stop keeping so silent. Please start to speak up more, to have conversations. And also, may I share, if you're not already thinking of this, one of the best things that works for any of us, and it certainly was a game changer, it was a lifesaver for myself, and I've seen so many other people feel the same, is find peer support. Surround yourself with like-minded others. Daniel, you've spoke that you've already had the experience. You're here today, you co-host with Margaret. And I'm sure, and please tell me if not, but when you get to speak to other people that understand how you feel, have like-minded conversations, it raises awareness, educates you, and it really does help to know how to navigate. You're using that word, Margaret, navigate through. Also, there was a few other things, and I still hear it often, and that is, there's a lot, and this maybe sort of also would have been applicable for people in their relationship, but certainly having more awareness afterwards, is about, have you heard of those rules, those out of date myths, but certainly the rules where they're rules that are imposed, and they're so, oh gosh, they just horrendous and quite dangerous, that are imposed on our men by families, by society, by friends, where men are led to believe through these rules that they are not allowed to cry, they mustn't be weak, don't show emotion, don't ask for help. And actually, as I say, these rules are so dangerous. And I'm asking and offering and, can signpost to so many people that please do not stay silent and do not believe any longer in those rules, because there's so many of us out here that want to hear you. We'll have conversations. It goes back to not just myself, but that's how Shoosh No More come about. Let's talk, let's share, let's care. And actually, one of the conversations I have far too often is where you know, again, we're focusing on our lovely men today, and that is men say, but I can't, you know, I can't show my emotion. I can't be seen to be weak. Utter rubbish. You know, you are a human being. Nobody should feel that they have to deal with pain. Okay, the separation, you know, the being alone, all of the things that you've just mentioned that we're covering today on your own. You should not feel that you are alone. And also the fact that trauma comes into this, you know, the trauma that you've endured and that you're carrying around that you need, you know, we need to speak about, you need support about. I can also then go on and just make sure, if that's okay, that we have an understanding. And when I said about uncomfortable words, I mean, I talk about this all the time. I'm certainly not uncomfortable, but I do know that some still try to silence me when I do use the word abuse. And I just wanted to touch on that, and especially as we're talking about navigating through relationships, and to raise awareness around how abuse is still thought about, that people still think that unless somebody, you know, lays a single little finger on you, that it's not abuse. And that is wrong. Okay, that's so wrong, because I'm just looking here, I've got a few, just want to make sure I cover these. So abuse is when somebody hurts, okay, or causes emotional stress to another. And abuse is not only physical. And Margaret, if it's okay, I really felt strongly, and I said to you, can I raise this? Because
of course, please do raise it, because you can't really talk about navigating relationships with children and we don't touch on abuse, and we don't touch on power struggle, we don't touch on red flags, and we don't touch on respect. So please do share, because some of the men out there really need to hear this. And the reason I'm saying that is that some of the men that our organization has worked with, a lot of this stuff did come up. And one of the key things I really love what you said, you know, don't be silenced, men, you know, talk about it. So please do share, please do, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, my harsh reality and the rawness is that silence kills. You know, sorry, but, you know, really, if you keep silent and you don't get support or help or share your emotions or how you're feeling, I've seen, we've lost so many people. So my passion comes in here, where please, you know, please, however uncomfortable, reach out. And let's have conversations. You know, there's so many people that I'm sure that all of three of us, but we can signpost. I just feel so, it worries me, and I really want to make sure that people really do hear these words. Please reach out. But yeah, going back to how somebody can have such power and control over you. Now, I'm going to presume in this conversation that you know, whoever's listening, and yourselves here today, is I don't know whether abuse was part of why your relationship ended, but that's why I mentioned the understanding and the awareness around abuse, and the fact that it doesn't have to be that someone's laid a single finger on you. And some of the things here that they can do are they can make those victimized feel guilty and shame. Okay, they can make you feel that everything's your fault. They can make you start to question yourself and your actions. They can call you names, they can call you lazy, useless, stupid, you know, fat, lots more very cruel and unkind words. And then there's the mind games. And the reason that I'm raising them is because navigating through, you know, when you're separated, when you're not with somebody, especially as a parent, you know, all of these things are often happening. And yes, it's again something that I really want to speak about, so we have awareness around this. You know, the mind games and the fact that the other person can cancel on you. So I'm just thinking with regards to if you've got children and you're really looking forward to seeing them, or, you know, there's tea time or whatever arrangements you have. You know, somebody can cancel on you, act like they don't care, and all of these are where someone is using power and control and choosing to, yes, abuse you. Okay, now the thing is we aren't in control of what the other people do to us. Okay, and one of the things that I do have some tips. I was going to cover them nearer the end, but the three things is just before I lead to them is the fact that the best thing we can do is really, really tune in, Margaret. I've spoke to you about this before, is tune in to our wonderful selves, to shine as bright. And I do say this, you know, shine as bright as a diamond as we can. Yes, there is that song, but do you know what? It's so true to remind yourself of, you know, I talk about myself. I always looked back and I remember, and even now I know that I got up every day. I was always the best person I could be. And I know that the way I was treated was not my fault. That other person chose to mistreat me. They chose to abuse me. And what I then did and what I've done, I mean, my three are now young adults. And it's been many years since I've had to navigate any parenting or have anything to do with the other person. But as I say, I've got the experience, is to just stay in your lane and never, ever react. Just that simple word. Just don't react. Daniel, yes, Daniel.
I was just going to share, you're saying not react. Now, I think that's great, but how many people can truly do that, get to a place where they don't react? Because, you know, if someone's throwing or putting their anger in your direction, whether it's male, or if it's female, whether it's you know, for single fathers, it could be an ex-wife, and, you know, she's saying, well, you can't see you know, your daughter or your son, or you can't do that. So what would you say in that kind of scenario?
Yeah, they're doing it. They're saying that. They're acting like that to get a reaction out of you. And going back to the reason why is because all they ever want is power and control over you. Okay? And they will use the children. They will not give it a second thought. If you have children with them, they will not even flinch, and they will use the children to continue what I refer to, and that word that some still find uncomfortable because there's still such stigma, is the abuse. And you're quite right. Oh my goodness, please, you know, as I say, I've got the experience. You're standing there and you're getting bombarded with all of some of the things that I've already said. You're lazy, you're this, you're fat, you're useless, you're a rubbish parent, you know, etc., etc., etc. And they're simply doing it because they want you to react. And yes, oh my gosh, it's going to break your heart. It's going to hurt you. It's going to be harder than any words that I could share today. But as soon as you react, they've got their kick. That's what they live for. They want you to react. And unfortunately, a very high percentage of the time, they're doing it so you react when maybe your children are there or the wrong person's there. And then it also brings into the fact that responsibility that we really have to home in on is how someone reacts. So there's a little bit of an example, if I may, that I often share to help understand that. So again, I'm only using this because today, you know, we're talking about wonderful fathers and single men and, you know, single fathers. So this example is that a chap was due to go round and see his children, and for quite a long time, every time he went round, he was able to just literally turn up there, open the door and go in. And this one particular day, he went along and he couldn't get in the house. It was locked. Okay. And unfortunately, that upset him. So nothing at this point had been said to him. You know, it was just the sheer fact that he could no longer get in the door of what was once the family home. And actually banging and banging and banging, which was really unfortunate. I mean, we had a really good and long conversation about this, because initially he was hurt. He was sort of, why can't I get in the house? I've always been able to just walk through the door. And then his ex-partner shouting out of the window, you have to wait a minute, you have to wait a minute. And unfortunately, due to the way he was feeling, you know, he'd missed his children, and then he'd been met with this locked door. He started to then react. And the reaction was shouting, you know, why can't I get in the door? What the hell are you doing up there? And it did transpire that the child had a sickness bug. And, you know, she'd locked the door, and it was just for safety reasons. I mean, I never keep my door open anyway, and then needed to just be sorting out the child. But unfortunately, what she chose to do was report him for being abusive, verbally abusive, etc., etc. Now, actually, if we had time and we sort of, you know, went through both of the characters and we sort of utilized it and spoke about it, it was really unfortunate that he had reacted that way. And but also she decided that she was going to sort of put the knife in a little bit more and reported him. But that is why I mentioned earlier about abuse, because the reality is he also smashed a plant pot and, you know, and upset the children. So it's, hang on 1 second, I don't want it to look like I'm on anybody's side, because I'm not. I guess what I'm using is that to actually sort of say that we really have to take that non-reaction and really make sure that nobody can turn around and say, well, you lost your temper, you started swearing at me.
Yeah, and for me, this is one of the reasons, is when men aren't fully allowed to express their grief and their sadness, that bubbles up.
Yeah.
No, that is contained, and it can be contained in a huge sauna furnace.
Yeah.
And men aren't allowed to release their emotions because they're told, don't cry, don't get, you know, all of that bubbles in.
Yeah.
And in situations like this, it can then come to the surface in an explosive way.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think it's really important that men find a way to release the valve of their emotions safely and gradually in a consistent way. And that's where you said, you know, the courage to come out and be open and honest about how they feel makes a big difference. And maybe in this scenario, if a man had been encouraged to do that previously,
exactly, this
may have never happened.
Exactly. And Daniel, what you've highlighted there, and I'm really glad that we've got sort of, I've used that example and we've gone round to this through this process, and what that reminds us, and I'd like to remind everybody, is when you have the conversations, when you reach out to the like-minded others, the peer support that I started off saying, and when you then have conversations, and then you get to you know, have awareness, more understanding, when you were met with a situation like that. And you're absolutely right. I said, didn't I, that they were really excited about seeing the children, you know, they'd never not been able to go through the door. So that all of a sudden was a game changer. If all of those other things had happened, if they'd have had that awareness and maybe heard stories, heard other stories, and then sat there, and this was in one of those situations, and the other men were saying, wow, I would never have known by that reaction that day that person could have then been accused of abuse, verbal abuse, you know, aggression and things like that. Whereas actually that man, if he'd have had the support and everything I've just said, it would have been a completely different situation.
Yeah, the chances are it would have been completely different. Okay, yeah, but it played out the way it needed to play out, because maybe what, you know, he had to go through then is to bring up more stuff,
yeah,
to clear it. And you know, I always find that whatever happens in our life, if our partner disconnects us from our children, or, you know, I've never had that. I've been really fortunate when I, you know,
Good.
split up with my ex-wife. She never used my daughter in that way. That I've heard so many of my friends go through.
Terrible. Yeah.
But whatever situation a man finds themselves in, not being connected with his children, not being able to see it, it brings up the exact emotions it needs to bring up to heal, to clear all that stuff out from his energetic system, so he then can become connected.
But please, Daniel, please, my shush no more today is that I don't want to see anybody accused of abusing. Yeah. So that was my main concern. Yeah, Margaret.
And thank you very much, guys. And I'm going to throw this to both of you, right? As we're speaking now, I love the illustration that you've just given us, because that is such a message, is a reality, and it happens every day to men out there who are kind of trying to have a relationship with their children. But my question to the both of you, how does this impact the children? For example, now he couldn't see the children, and the children were looking forward to seeing him, and having all this going on. Obviously, maybe the police did turn up and everything. How does this impact our children, their children? How does it impact the children?
You want to go first, Daniel? Did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I think in any scenario like that where there's tension and it's going to impact the children in a negative way. You know, it goes without saying. It's you know, emotional sort of surfacing comes up, and both partners are angry. And at that point, when something like that happens, the tension escalates until one individual is able to somehow shift their energetic state, emotional state, to one where, and this may carry on for a long period of time, and we don't know, you know, it's when we're really truly willing to change later on and say, I forgive, or I am ready to look at my partner or my ex-partner differently. But yeah, inevitably it will be a negative impact.
Yeah, it absolutely. Yeah, there's no deviation there. I'm afraid it's not debatable either. That's 100% true, that those children will be, they'll have trauma that they then will carry on unless they then get support around that. That will be, you know, the trauma they'll be already storing here in their bodies. It's absolutely despicable and disgusting. The only thing is that sadly we have to keep coming back to, and trust me, I wish we didn't, and that is that the people, the parent that stops the other parent from seeing their children is unforgivable. We also, though, then have to, if we had time and we're on a different conversation, we have to be realistic about abuse, okay? Because abuse, the severity of some of the abuse means, you know, safety is the key, and, you know, again, and another topic. But we do have to make sure we do remember that. But when it comes down to the fact, again, of the power and control, Daniel, I completely agree with you. I've been in groups with women, and you know, again, I'm all for raw truths, and I this is what I share, the truths. And I've had some of them say that they're not going to let them see the children, and this point that I'm using, there was no given reason. Okay, they were just didn't want the dad to see them, and they were using it as a tool. And trust me, you know, they would have had some quite stern words, because that isn't funny. That isn't funny, you know. But there are people that use our children, had it done to me, you know, to keep that control, to keep hurting you. And anybody watching that's doing that, stop it, because you will possibly ruin your children's lives, you know. And even if it's not going to be ruined, they're going to need some help, you know, in the future to actually work all of this out. again, I touched on the trauma informed, because it does. They're going to have trauma. I mean, we all have trauma, but the effect that your parents have on you through your life is huge.
The one thing that I've found, thanks very much for sharing that, Szara. The one thing that I've found is that when there's a disagreement between parents, and this could be when the parents are together or when they're split, and they're shouting, they're screaming, there's whatever, and the child witnesses that, that trauma comes up. But what happens is, and I've noticed this, is like, if ever there's ever been a disagreement, what between, let's say, me and my ex-wife, and my daughter has seen this, and when I let go, I've gone back to my ex-wife in front of my daughter, and if there was any aspect that I perhaps got angry or upset and threw it in her direction, I would apologize in front and within, so that my daughter sees. And I think that can be healed. Any trauma can be healed as long as the parents come together and genuinely, not pretend, and in front of a child, and apologize in a loving way to each other. And that may take time, but the child sees them. As soon as that happens, I think there's a massive healing can occur through everyone.
Oh, Daniel, thank you. Thank you for raising that. It's right,
thank
Margaret.
you so much.
That's called Oh, God, sorry. Sorry.
I love it. We all got so many points coming in and everything. Thank you so much. And that is really fantastic, because that's what I wanted to bring up for what you just brought up, Daniel, in terms of the impact. So that is great. We're covering the impact, how it affects the children, the trauma and everything. And one of the questions I was going to ask as well, just if you can elaborate on it, you've already touched on it, that you will go back and say to the ex in front of the child to say, I'm really, really sorry what happened, so they can see that the right thing. If right now we're speaking to fathers out there, or a man out there, or somebody who's going through right now what we're discussing right now at this moment of time, what can you say to that person, in terms of the negativity, that the trauma that may impact the children, and what they need to think of so that the children's safety is there? Szara, you, Daniel, anybody can answer.
Yeah, to answer that, okay, so it may seem that I'm going backwards, but to answer that, what Daniel's touched on gives a massive, massive answer. So what we call within the trauma-informed work that I do is what Daniel just spoke about is called resourcing. And every single person, male or female, needs to feel safe. And Daniel, thank you. Oh, thank you so much for raising and explaining exactly what you've done. And thank you on behalf of so many people, because that is amazing parenting. Okay, and that is a really amazing thing to be able to do. When you described that someone is, maybe not being nice and there's an argument, and then you were able to sort of stand back and you described how you really meant it, you really thought about it and really meant it. And that shows to everybody watching today, that example Daniel gave is parenting, amazing love for your children, your child. And I'm just going to use another little example. I'm all about these little examples, and everybody may be able to sort of picture this or have had it happen. I had it happen. And if you think back to being at school in a classroom, okay, and the teacher's teaching you, they're at the front of the class and they're teaching you, and you're sat there, and I'm thinking of myself now, and didn't really understand that, and oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to do my homework unless I ask this question. And I get really brave and I ask the question, excuse me, now, if the teacher, so all of the pupils are laughing, by the way, so I put my hand, you're thick, you don't know the answer, and I'm, oh no, and my whole demeanor, and I'm thinking, I wish I'd never answered. And then just imagine if that teacher laughed as well. Oh, you weren't listening. Put your hand down. Don't be so silly. Okay, so bear with me with that one. But if the teacher, thinking of what Daniel just said, if the teacher turns around and says, right, everybody stop laughing, because what Szara asked, actually, I bet you all want to know. and they sort of gave you eye contact, came a little bit closer, whatever they're allowed to do these days. But back then, I remember the teacher put their hand on my shoulder and said, Szara, ask away, because I'm sure everyone else wants to know, you know, the answer. Just as Daniel explained with regards to parenting, I felt resourced, I felt safe. So I didn't take that experience any further on. That was it. It was done and dealt with. And, you know, I've spoke about trauma, but as Daniel said, you know, when he apologized, his children could see that everyone was all right. They felt safe. They felt loved and cared for. It wouldn't go any further. But when the teacher, as I explained, maybe didn't do that and continued to say I was stupid and why did I ask the question and put your hand down, that would have become, you know, that was a trauma that I'd experienced. And again, may I just share very quickly that trauma is individual to each of us. So there's people that say to me, well, what have you, you know, I haven't had a major car crash. I mean, I have, but they said, well, I haven't had a big traumatic event. Trauma's all the things. Trauma is what, however we feel that we, you know, that it's trauma, that we're affected, that we've felt this unsafe way. So Daniel, yet again, answered that question. And that is, if you're a parent, you know, if you're a father out there, and I know there's going to be times, oh, Daniel, you know, please, you know, explain again. Some of those times are hard. You do not want to admit to it, you know, and sometimes you just do sadly have to go back to that no reaction. But at every given moment, yeah, if you can and children are involved, please make sure that before you go any further or you leave there or anything, that that child knows that they're safe.
Yeah, and I think, thank you for that, Szara. I think it's really important, like, because we're responsible for our reaction, we're responsible for the words that we say, but we're not responsible for anyone else's words. So the other parent may have would have inevitably played a part in this as well at some level.
Yeah.
So we apologize for any actions that come perhaps from anger and from that energy that we direct at others, but we don't necessarily have to apologize if we don't agree with what someone else, a different viewpoint. We may have a specific belief, we view things a certain way.
Yeah.
But we don't apologize we just apologize if we ever at any point threw our anger in someone else's direction, and we do that in front of a child, and we have to do it in front of a child, in front of it, or whoever was involved in that, for everything to heal.
And I've explained, Daniel, how bright would you have shined? You know, however corny that sounds. Yeah. I mean, just picture it. You know, if I was an outsider looking in, I'd have been, I mean, who couldn't have gone, wow, what a father, what an amazing person. They have made sure that their child, their children is okay. And you're quite right. It doesn't mean that you are saying, I forgive the other person, or, oh, you know, it doesn't matter that you've said that. Just be you, shine as bright as you can. And yeah, that awareness and that information you've given is just priceless.
Yeah, and this works in every scenario as well, whether it's a business, whether it's work. You know, if you're managing a group of people, and you react and you get upset and you throw, you know, you get angry at everyone, then in order to heal that, you need to go back in front of everyone and then do the same thing. Yeah. And say sorry. Not do the same thing, but say sorry. Say sorry to and apologize for your reaction and how you acted.
Brilliant.
Wow. Brilliant. Thank you. I mean, that is such an amazing. So guys, any guys who's going through at the moment such a journey, you know, going through separation, going through divorce, and obviously there's this issue about picking up the children, and you, please, as my guest has spoken, please, 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 as a father and also as a mother as well, let's consider the children, because this is what it's all about. And I love what Daniel said, and it's powerful. It's really powerful. having a man's point of view come in as well, it makes the show really powerful. And also the listener out there, us men, to say, okay, all right, because of my daughter, because of my children, because of whatever, let me apologize. Doesn't mean the ex was right or anything, but you have taken time to consider your children's feelings and how it's going to impact them, how it's going to affect them. So all I want to say, fathers out there, men out there that are going through the journey, please focus on the children, make them also part of the center point as well. And yes, it doesn't make you any less of a man. It's just for the sake of your children to say, I'm sorry, so that child can get healed. Thank you, it's been amazing. Now, my next question to both of you, right? And first to Szara, what are red flags for men? I mean, because most time we hear about red flags, right? It's all about the woman, you know, look for this, look for that. But what about the men? What are the red flags that they need to look out for and to see if they are in a abusive relationship? What are the red flags? You first, Szara.
How long have we got? No.
We ain't got much, but I'm definitely going to have you as another guest speaker, because I think this is the topics that we need to talk about, and to know that our men, there are women like us out there that, I'm going to put it this way, hey, we got your back. All right, we truly got your back. There are men, there are women there that we are saying to you, we got your back. So, right.
So, I mean, men are abused. You know, the statistics are narrowing. You know, it's, I've got boys of my own, and, you know, I've got friends and I've got clients that I've helped. It's rife, okay? It is rife. So when Margaret mentions alarm bells, the two things that I always speak about is the alarm bells and our gut feeling, right? Now, alarm bells, they're also important, okay? If you have been through a separation, if you've divorced, you know, if you're navigating relationships, I really, really want to make sure, okay, that you don't go through the cycle of abuse and that you end up in another relationship, another unhealthy relationship. So alarm bells and gut feelings, they are where at any given point, and I was having a conversation earlier, I really was, and I was reminding this person about those alarm bells, and it's any moment in time where you are questioning and you're in your head and you're thinking, why did they do that? Why did they say that? Why was that? Oh no, I'm not really happy with that, or that doesn't align with my own ethics, morals, you know, oh no, I'm not comfortable with that. Any single little bit of doubt or any question mark in your head is an alarm bell. Okay, and it is ringing loud, so you don't ignore it, because it's ringing to save you. It's there to save your life. You know, we can already hear, and we already know that when you've broken up from a relationship and you've got children, life is hard, you know, and who would choose to go through that? We wouldn't. So one of the biggest things is please be very aware of the alarm bells. And then we go to the gut feeling. Now, I ignored all of that. Okay. Now, I did touch briefly on the beliefs and myths where I didn't say this, but the beliefs and myths of what we're taught when we're growing up, and the society and everything that I mentioned that are forced on us, have a huge impact. Because I was led to believe, you know, you get married, you have children, you oblige, you do as you're told. I mean, again, I use that word, that was dangerous. And it took for me to be a survivor of, you know, someone else's power and control, and to actually remember and learn and recognize that I ignored those alarm bells and gut feeling, that's why I keep talking about them, because they save us. And that gut feeling is that really sick, sort of gut wrenching, this don't feel right. And, you know, even if you like the look of someone, or they, you know, just picture it, you know, oh, you really fancy them, they smell good, and oh, I really like this person. But it doesn't mean that they're going to be the right person for you, that they're going to be kind and nice. And, you know, if you've got this gut wrenching feeling, don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. That's my main stance. So I see what Daniel says.
Yeah, no, for me, it's about the feeling. You know, your feelings will always tell you the or maybe the intuition, but it's
intuition.
Yeah, but it's important to understand that what many people think is intuition is actually a program playing out, which isn't actually intuition. It's like it's a belief system that plays out, a negative belief system, and then people take that to mean that's intuition. But it's really important to understand that that's not the case. That's a past program that's conditioned, and that won't tell you what necessarily, that will blur what is actually happening. Intuition is deeper than that. So we need to clear out the negative feelings and then listen to our intuition. But ultimately, I think that alarm bells, you know, a lot of these feelings that come up, you know, and we'll see, but when we clear out the negative feeling, then we'll be able to see the situation clearly. And then we'll be able to see, okay, what's the true alarm bell? What's really there? What is really, you know, what's going on? I mean, moving back to a simpler perspective, a lot of the time is, for me, it's like, there's two rules often, and a lot of men can relate to this, is that there seems to be one rule for the woman in a relationship and another rule for the man in a relationship. And where some of the things that a woman can say to a man, the man is expected to just take. But if a man said that to a woman, oh my God. Yeah. And I think that is unfair, because it shows, you know, we need to respect both partners. We need to speak with, you know, women in a respectful way, and the man and the woman has to speak with a man in a respectful way. And if none of that is happening, then we have to examine, why is that the case? Why, and that's, you know, that may be seen as an alarm bell. So, okay, so maybe it's something that I need to look at within myself, or maybe it's something that I need to talk with about to the woman, to my ex with, or maybe it's the way I'm thinking constantly that has come from a past trauma that I need to change. So
yeah, and that could be the wrong person. So what you've highlighted there is to be comfortable with ourselves, to, you know, again, I know people struggle with hearing this, but I was 43 years of age when I first met myself. 43. I'd been in a life of imprisonment up until that point. Yeah, and that's the truth. And actually, I have no doubts now to say,
sorry, for a minute. I'm so sorry. This is so amazing thing you've just said. Sorry about that. You're 43 when you met yourself. What do you mean by that? Because a lot of people out there, men that are listening to us, what do you mean by I met myself? Can you just highlight that a little bit for us?
Yeah, it's probably sensible I sort of explain that. But literally, I had spent all of my life until that 43 years of age, okay? And the reason that that's a specific age is because I had been controlled. Shoosh No More came about, which I actually didn't even get to share with you, is because I wasn't allowed to speak in my own home as an adult. Okay, the other person, my husband, would come in and say, "Shush, don't speak to me," for weeks on end. I'm not exaggerating here. And then the unfortunate thing is I was also I had a job that I adored, but the abuse at home was making me poorly. And then actually I was being silenced at work too. Now, I can't say a lot more on that for another reason, but that was for nearly 22 years I worked there. So I lost my job. Okay. I then, you know, the marriage ended, and I actually became very, very poorly. And that's how Shush No More come about, because I literally was like, and I joke about it because I always say, you know, sorry, chicken, but literally the only way I can describe it to you, it's like a cage opened. I came out like a headless chicken. And it was like, whoa, you are Szara Coote? And goodness me, yeah. And then that's been nearly 10 years now. And that's why, again, it makes sense more now that when I said to you, you know, that I'm proud to be myself, and that I looked back and thought, do you know what, Szara, you got up every day and thought you were a survivor, you were that best person you could be. And anybody listening, that's priceless. If you can look back and think, you know, look, I couldn't control the how someone treated me. It wasn't my fault. They chose to do that. So that's why having these conversations, thank you, Margaret. So thank you, Daniel, once again, because coming on here and being able to all have a conversation about this, I'm hoping that other people will hear us. You know, Margaret, what you were just asking us then and what Daniel was speaking about, we want to be loved. Who doesn't want to be loved? Yeah, who doesn't want to find someone that loves us? To be honest, I'm all about raw truths. I don't bother now. Okay, I'm on my own, quite happy. Sorry, I had to get that in. But, you know, most people do want to find people. And Daniel, you hit the nail on the head again, because you said about, you know, making sure that we have our mind right, people being able to say things that other people can't. Yeah, love you. And that's why I mentioned meeting myself at 43 years of age, because I remember thinking, whoa, pretty cool you are. Yeah. And you know what? You don't need anybody else to live your life. But if other people do come into your life, that's a bonus. Now, when you don't recognize that, okay, that is when it's dangerous. And that is when you can ignore alarm bells, ignore a gut feeling, because other people are out there. Guys, women are out there, men are out there that are seeking the best of us to have power and control, to abuse us. So make sure that you know who you are, that you love yourself enough that you will always question, just as Daniel mentioned, okay, why can they say that? And yet and there's no rush. Yeah, if it's meant to be, if we're talking about love again here, you know, if it's meant to be, woo, come back, learn as much as you can, have as many conversations, and then go for it.
Yourself. I mean, I love that. We would be coming back. As I speak with Daniel, we have our meeting for the next show. We will be covering loving yourself. I think that's a really fantastic top project to do so. Right, Daniel, what do you think, you know, in terms of, I love what Sarah just shared. I come out of 40. I met me at 40. You know, what would you say about men, you know, around that side, not going through that?
In like getting to know themselves?
Yeah, coming up from abusive relationship and navigating the relationship with them, the children and everything like that. And now you're here.
Okay, so I think it's to really try to understand what you are thinking, what you are feeling. That to me means knowing yourself, because when you understand what you are thinking, then you'll see how a lot of your repeated thoughts create your life. And when you start to question the thoughts and see whether they actually have validity, and you start to find new empowered ways of thinking, then you'll start to see that the world outside you will begin to change. However, you may find that when you start to try and question your thoughts, then the emotions that are blocking that from happening appears. So you have to clear that out. You have to clear out those emotions, stay with them, again, with courage and tenacity until they start to dissolve. And you'll find then those thoughts can be changed more easily. And that at that point, then you'll start to see that the outside world will begin to change. So previously, the ex-wife that may have not allowed you to see the children, now for some reason, because of your inner change, has started to say, well, yeah, look, come round. Yeah. And this is exactly what is possible. So you have a way more power than you think, but you have to see the areas where you are lacking power and where you're giving it away to people and situations outside of you.
Wow. That's amazing. Guys out there, I hope you are listening. I mean, the information that's come out today is like diamonds. So please, thank you. Right, we're coming towards the end of the show and everything, but thank you so much for sharing. Now, one other thing, I just want to recap a few things that our guest speaker, Szara, said, and which I really, really love. Guys, any guys out there that's going through the journey, things that we've discussed right now, not seeing your children or going out there trying to see your children, something happened, please, like Szara said, get a peer mentor. Share your story, have a really good friend around you that you can actually speak to and everything. That is so important. And another thing I want to share as well with you guys there, if you are in a relationship, which Szara has covered really amazingly, please follow your instinct, your gut feelings. Those are all red flags to you. Okay, those are all red flags to you. Start watching them and things like that. And I love what Daniel just said, please, guys, if you're going through that journey and everything, it doesn't mean when you say sorry to your partner, that makes them right. No, but it's about the healing for your children to see that as a father, you have actually taken the step to say sorry to your missus, sorry to your ex and everything. It goes a long way for those children, for their healing, for their restoration. And I think also for their confidence as well. You really build the story of the confidence. Like I love what Szara just sharing about raising her hand, asking a question, and what you get out of it. So please, fathers out there that are going through that journey, take time out, know who you are, and just have the patience for yourself and have the patience for the woman. Now, I want to address the woman out there, and Szara touched on it. We work with lone parent, and I've heard what Szara said. I've heard many lone parents out there, well, I'm not going to let him see the children. Well, I'm not. It is wrong. I'm a single parent myself, and I've always opened the door to welcome the father to my children, let's say to our children, because I didn't do it on my own. Let's be real, okay? Let's be real here. Takes the man. So don't shoot the man at the picture. The man must be in the picture because it does impact and affect the children later on, impact them and affects them in schools. You may not be aware of it or think about it because of your actions, stopping the children not to see the fathers, because the fathers, they play a very important role. So you women out there that think the children belongs to you, I want you to stop, because they don't. There are some amazing men out there who want to take part, be part of their children's life. So please, I want to encourage you women out there. Another thing I want to say to the men out there, I was doing a research and I was watching this talk show. And it was so amazing. These are two married couple. They were so open into their relationship. And there was one scenario that the guy was showing to the wife how he felt about his blanket, right? And the scenario was that, they were just having a conversation, they first married and everything like that. She's making the bed. So she's becoming more and more resentful for it. And he has a special blanket in the bed. And she took the blanket and hid the blanket. And as they were opening the conversation, and then he brought up the blanket, she didn't think much of it. And he said, actually, I felt so disrespected that you hide my blanket and then I had to look for it. I feel really disrespected. I'm like, wow. One, it was the openness of the conversation. He was allowed to talk and everything. So if you are in a relationship right now or about to split out, separate, please, let's respect our men out there. They deserve the respect. You know, doesn't matter who they are, but men deserve our respect. And for me, they are our kings. So let's treat them as one. Thank you so much for listening to us. Daniel?
Yes,
Right.
Thank you, Margaret, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And we really hope you got, you know, a lot of benefit from it and from our wonderful guests, Szara. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Szara, amazing. Thank you so much. I was so much looking forward to this conversation, to this talk and everything. I mean, you gave us so much. Oh, diamonds. If people want to reach you and meet you, how can they contact you and everything, please?
Yeah, so on social media, I am literally Shoosh No More. That's SHOOSH, Shoosh No More. If anybody wanted to do free 5 days of support where I will help you sort of get your mind thinking and doing some of the bits that we spoke today, please message me and I'll send you the information. And also, please do me a favour, Shoosh No More, speak up and speak out, because that will, well, it's a game changer. You know, peer support, meet other people, have conversations. And thank you so much for having me today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for being here. All right, Daniel, tell us where our fathers or the men out there that want to work with you, how could they reach out to you?
My website is clearthepath.co.uk and the email address is danield@clearthepath.co.uk, and feel free to contact me through those means.
Thank you very much. And if you want to contact the Father Talk Show, please do not hesitate. Go to our website, Let's Change Your Life with Margaret Thorley. On Facebook, we're on H&R Training Professionals on Margaret Thorley and Instagram. So we really look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much, Szara, to come and join us. Thank you, Dinah. Thank you very much for being there. God bless. Have an amazing day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, we're off live.